Here's some business advice that's blindingly obvious once you know it. It's okay to be mediocre. Now let me unpack that. Recently, I found myself up in the mountains at a mastermind where we went skiing. It was really cool. And I found myself hanging out with this guy, Omar Zenhom. Now, if you recognize the name, that's because he is one of the top podcasters in the world. His show, the $100 MBA, is frequently ranked by people in the know as one of, if not the top business podcast in the world. And we were talking about podcasts, and he said, don't bother unless you want to create something that's really great. I like the idea of setting big goals, grand goals, aim for the stars, and you might just make it to the moon. But I also know that humans aren't wired that way. If you went to all the other great podcasters, the Stephen Bartletts, the Josh Rogans, the guys from My First Million, you'll probably find that none of them thought that they were going to have an internationally famous podcast. They probably did it for different reasons. They had a niche that they needed to scratch. Maybe they were bored. Maybe they thought it could generate a little bit of exposure for their business. They went out to do it in a way where they wanted to create something that was significant and great. But however, if you set yourself the goal of producing one of the best somethings of anything in the world, there's a really strong chance that in the short term, you're going to find yourself a little bit disappointed. So here is my recommendation. When you go out and you want to create something new, prepare to be mediocre for a while. So I started up on TikTok about a year ago. If you look at my first 100 videos, they were terrible. But I decided that the first 100 were gonna be mediocre. The main thing was that I just had to get them done. Every time I launch a new product and I'm reaching out to a new set of customers, I realize that my offer is gonna be mediocre and I'm probably gonna come across as a little bit of a schmuck. The reality is that we all need to climb cringe mountain if we want to achieve anything great. Now, this is top of mind for me right now because I'm launching a new podcast. Yes, a new podcast called Super Obvious. I'm up to recording. I've got my 9th episode in the can, and when I have 10, I will launch it. And guess what? The 9 out of the 10 so far have great guests, really inspiring and interesting people, but I look at them from my perspective and my skill, the production standards, a little bit mediocre. But you know what? I don't care, because the next 10 are going to be so much better.